So this just happened in Las Vegas.
These 3 people killed on a college campus.
A gunman opened fire at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, going floor to floor.
Chaos erupting on campus at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Shots fired in the area.
The sound of gunfire just before noon Wednesday, sending crowds of students running for their lives.
So we're reporting an actual active shooter at this point, correct?
That's affirmative.
According to police, the shooter began on the 4th floor of Beam Hall, home to the business school.
You don't want to believe that that could be happening on your floor, on your hall, to people you know.
Assistant Professor Truman Raleigh's office is on that 4th floor.
I saw one of my colleagues jump from her desk and shut the door and take cover.
Within minutes, the student union and business school swarmed with SWAT teams and armored police vehicles.
I was just hoping to get away alive at that point, because it was loud, it sounded like it was right there.
Police! Hands up! Hands up!
Police working to clear buildings, rushing people to safety with their hands above their heads.
Now, the reason I'm doing this video so soon, usually I wait to speak on these issues to get more information, but I'm speaking on this because of the way Joe Biden and his administration responded immediately after this shooting.
We are now hearing from President Biden himself in a statement. I want to bring in our White House correspondent, Mike Memoli.
We saw in this long statement, as you point out, him pivot to the issue of gun safety, one that has been a top priority for his administration. And I'll read you now some of what the president says in this statement. He said, this year alone, our nation has experienced more than 600 mass shootings and approximately 40,000 deaths due to gun violence. The president going on to say that for all the action we have taken since I've been president, the epidemic of gun violence we face demands that we do even more, but we cannot do more without Congress. Republican lawmakers must join with Democrats in Congress to ban assault weapons.
The issue I have with this statement is that it's seemingly like we have an administration that utilizes any shooting, regardless of the context of the shooting, regardless of why the shooting happened, and regardless of the facts of the shooting, they utilize it to accomplish their agenda. Now, when I say agenda, it incites this idea of like conspiracy theory and all. But if we really sit down and we look at it, it makes all the sense in the world. For them, it's an agenda. It's a goal they want to accomplish merely for a control purpose, not necessarily to keep you safe, because if we were talking about keeping people safe, we'd be talking about the intricacies. We'd be talking about the details of the actual shooting and not just trying to leverage it to pass more gun control laws. Because in this particular shooting, he used a handgun.
Authorities say he was armed with a handgun when he carried out his rampage, killing at least 3 people. A 4th rushed to the hospital, now in stable condition.
Yet, immediately, the statement made by our president after the shooting is to ban assault weapons. Not only that, we're talking about a man who used a handgun on a campus where you're not allowed to have a handgun. You're not allowed to carry a gun on a UNLV campus. So maybe we should be talking about gun-free zones. Maybe we should talk about how do we empower people on campus. If we already know, we hear this in the news all the time, the spate of gun violence in this country, the spate of school shootings in this country, it's happening more and more and more and more. If we understand that, should not we be talking about how to empower people who are in schools to defend themselves? How many times do we have to hear the story about how the kids cowered in the corner and shut doors and tried to hide from the shooter?
Students receiving alerts on their phones.
This is not a test. Run, fight, hide.
Hundreds of students and faculty anxiously sheltering behind barricaded doors.
And then wait for police officers to get there to take down the shooter as the shooter's already taken down multiple people. We're talking about adults on campus. So in that situation, would you not rather have a firearm in your hand in the moment that you have somebody in your school trying to shoot people? Why would you not want to have a firearm there? Why would you want to wait on a police officer who is minutes away when within the next split second, somebody could take your life? We should be having these conversations. They should be hard. They're hard conversations. I'm not saying they're easy. It's not a simple solution, but we should at least be having them. No, instead, we have a president that gets up there and releases a statement talking about banning a gun that wasn't even used in the shooting he's responding to. So what is the real goal here? Is it really about keeping people safe? Or is it really about gaining control? Is it really about you just accomplishing some type of political agenda that you have set out because you have people pulling strings telling you to push this or push that? We live in a country with over 400 million people, in a country with over 400 million guns. So, of course, we're going to have shootings. Of course, we're going to have more shootings than anywhere else because we're one of the only countries that has the freedom to have firearms in the possession of the citizenry the way that we do. So, of course, that's going to happen. Like, they're always comparing us to these other countries. Like, oh my God, they don't have this level of shooting in this country and level of shooting in that country compared to the US. But yet, I don't see people trying to constantly go to those countries to live. I don't see people constantly illegally trying to cross borders to get into those countries. Those same people in those same countries are trying to come live here in America. And the reason they're doing that is because of freedom. That's the thing about America that distinguishes us between any other country, is our level of freedom giving to the people. You can choose where you want to live. If you don't like it, you can go to a different country. If you want to be subjugated by your government and live under the thumb of some brutal dictator, there are multiple countries that you can go do that in. Hell, it's even as mild as whatever city or state you want to choose to live in. Here in Texas, we choose freedom. And there are a bunch of other states that choose that as well. There are other states like California and New York who don't choose freedom. They like oppression. They like their government to hold a thumb over them and hold them down as subjects. If you like that type of thing, go over there. And so then what you have from people in those particular states, which are so anti-gun, you have them racing over to places like Texas. You wanna know why? Because the consequences of freedom is prosperity. That's what happens when you give people freedom. The goal is to deal with those problems on an actual basis, that we actually figure out ways to address them. And because they are nuanced, we can't just use a blanket solution to fix them. Most mass shootings are done with handguns. So at what point are we gonna stop? We're gonna ban handguns next? That's what we're gonna do. That's inevitably the road we're gonna go down. Because even when the shootings happen and they're using handguns, they're still talking about banning assault weapons. So if we ban assault weapons and shootings continue, because we know they will, because we live in a country with over 400 million guns, with over 400 million people, therefore we're gonna have some level of violence. What are we gonna do then? What do you think they're gonna suggest to do then? You think they're just gonna stop at so-called assault weapons? No, they're gonna be talking about how we need to ban handguns because we can't let these types of shootings become normal here in America. What do you think is gonna happen? The only people who are not supposed to have them are gonna be the ones that have the firearms. And you can't depend on the government to keep you safe. You can't depend on them now to keep you safe. You think you're really gonna be able to depend on them to keep you safe when the only people that have the guns at that point are the criminals? So now you can't depend on the government, nor can you depend on yourself because you just voted away your ability to protect yourself. If we really cared about the mental health aspect of things, we really would be addressing the self-deletion epidemic that's going on in this country and around the world. And the irony behind that is, with all the guns we have in this country, we don't lead the world in self-deletions. We don't.
And yes, AR-15s are protected by the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It didn't say only handguns, it said arms. Guns aren't political. That's why I need your help getting this message to spread on YouTube by clicking the thumbs up button, leaving a comment to let me know what you think of the video, then subscribing to the channel. But most importantly, click that bell symbol. For products featured in this video, click the links in the description.